Here we go. All right, here we go. Let's record. All right, so we're still in chapter 10. Last time what I did was, we started chapter 10, that is. And last time what we did was we saw that one thing you really have to deal with in statistics is populations and samples. So in other words, with populations, that's like a big group of people or objects in general that you analyze and you want to get something from them, some information, that is. The population might be, say, I don't know, everyone in New York State, let's say. I'm not sure how many people there are in the state of New York, but that's still a lot of people that you would have to deal with. I mean, theoretically, you can do it, but practically, no way. That's why we have this idea of a sample. With a sample, you're basically taking a sub-collection of that population. That's essentially what you're doing. You're taking a sub-collection of the population. You can't just choose the sample in any way you want. Right? I mean, for instance, let's say you wanted to know how everyone in New York State feels about President Trump and our governor, Andrew Cuomo. I said his last name right. You're not going to just focus on everyone in Manhattan, right? Because not every New Yorker, not every person in the state of New York is like a person that lives in Manhattan. So what you have to do is you have to somehow form a sample that's representative of the population. You can't just choose whoever you want, in other words. You have to somehow form the sample in a certain way. That is, you can only use certain methods. And that's what we have here. We can have what's called a simple random sample. That's when every member is equally likely. If I remember correctly, I think we did an example of that last time where I think they put everyone's name on a sheet of paper, we put it in a bin, we shake that bin up, and then we choose a name at random. That would be a simple random sample. Every member is equally likely to be in the sample. We also had this notion of stratified sampling and cluster sampling. Both of those had to do with groups. Basically, you're taking the population and you're breaking it up into subgroups somehow. With stratified sampling, you're taking members from every subgroup. Some from all meaning all the subs. For cluster sampling, though, you're taking all from some of the subgroups. So it's not like with stratified sampling where you're taking members from every group, every strata as it's called. For cluster sampling, you're taking everyone from some of the groups. You're not taking all the groups, but you're taking just some of them. And again, this is the website where I got these phrases from. You can look at the website if you want. It's up to you. All right. There's also systematic sampling. With systematic sampling, that's when you have all the members in a list and you take every 10th member, every 10th member, every 8th member, I don't know. That's what systematic sampling is. The last two, remember, these aren't really that good ways to form a sample. With convenience, you're basically choosing whoever's convenient for the sample, or you're getting data that's readily available. With volunteer response sampling, that's when the whole sample is full of volunteers. Now again, you don't want that either. Okay? So these are really not the best way. I mean, sometimes convenience sampling might be all that you have. that is, the data might be all that's available. The problem is it could be very biased. You don't want that. So these two methods are not the best. Okay? All right. So with volunteer response sampling, I think what happens is usually I don't think, I know what happens there is the people who volunteer usually are the ones that have strong opinions. But the problem is you're not getting the opinion of everyone. You're missing out on a lot of potential data, in other words. Like if you were to ask everyone, if you were to ask people what they thought of Trump and a governor, you're only going to get strong responses if you have volunteers. So there is bias in there, in other words. Okay. Speaking of bias, there is bias. I mean, we did go over that stuff last time, so I really don't want to go too much into the sampling techniques again. But here's just a review of the bias that we did. So a sampling bias, that's what we mentioned already. That's when the sample is not representative of the population. For instance, that's when like we said, if you want to get what New York State thinks about Trump, and you only focus on Manhattan. People in Manhattan, that is. That's sampling bias. Voluntary response bias, remember, that's when everyone in the sample are volunteers. That's what happens there. There's also what we call a self-interest study. We've seen that also. I think the example I gave was with Gatorade or something, if I remember correctly. Basically, the people running the survey have an interest, have a vested interest in it. Like with Gatorade, I think it was people who drink Gatorade after exercising tend to have better math grade, something like that. That's a self-interest study. The people who make Gatorade have an interest in that. It may be a true study, but there still is a potential for bias, though. There's a response bias where they don't give the accurate responses, not necessarily because of lying. It could be also because, for whatever reason. I think the example we gave was with asking people when the last time they got a physical, when the last time they went and saw their doctor for a physical. Some people that don't go to the doctor may lie, but some people that do, they may not remember when they had it, so they may not give the right answer. A lack of anonymity, we said, that's when you fear retribution because they think the answers are not. They don't give an honest answer because they're afraid of retaliation. There's non-response bias. That's when you refuse to respond for whatever reason. That's like when you have someone calling you, like a telemarketer, and asking you a bunch of questions about something. And you just hang up the phone then. So, loaded questions, again, that's when the wording or even the question order is set up in a way so that it invokes a certain response. I think the example we gave last time was with the death penalty, where they asked you, do you support the death penalty, even though innocent people might die? That kind of wording would lead you to vote against it. So there you have to be a little bit careful. All right, that's good. All right, so again, this is stuff we did last time. I don't want to go through it again necessarily. I did email you the notes. I didn't post the videos yet, but I will as soon as I can. So let's do some examples. So this is one I actually got. I think it's in the textbook. So here, a political scientist, that person is surveys 28 of the current 106 representatives in a state's Congress. Again, it's hypothetical. 14 of those people said they're supporting a new education bill. 12 said they would not. 2 of them were undecided. Okay, so the question then is, what is the population of this survey? Well, hopefully you can see that it would be the 106 representatives in that state's Congress. representatives in that state's Congress, right? The political scientist is surveying a sample of those people. So those people, in this case, these representatives, would be the population. What's the size of it, the population? Well, hopefully it's easy to see. That's 106. The sample, that's the 28 people that the political scientist is giving a survey to. That would be 28. For the sample statistic, right? For the sample statistic, that's the proportion here, the proportion of people who support the education bill. A proportion, that's what do you call it? That's a fraction. I have the answers here. I think what I was supposed to do is let you guys try this out, but I went through it, so I guess that's okay. We know there are 14 people here who support this new education bill. There's 28 in the sample. Remember, for a statistic, even though it says sample statistic, but a statistic in general is based on a sample. A parameter, though, that's based on the population. So the sample statistic would be 14 of 28, which is 50%. I guess the next one I could let you guys try, but this one in the other class, I waited like a minute and let them try these on their own, so sorry to do that for you guys. So, all right, so let's do the next one. Actually, let me read it, then I'll let you guys try it out. So here we have these 9,500 registered voters, right? There are 2 candidates for city council in the upcoming election, and their names are Brown and Feelers. Before the election, there's a poll of 350 randomly selected voters was conducted, and they do the survey stuff. All right, so, try and answer these. I'll wait like a minute. I'll press record. It's not recording now, so no, it is. I'm sorry.